Hello YouTube, I'm here to present my premium Overlord deck profile, so let's get right to it. For grade 3s, I run 2 copies of Draconic Overlord the X, the V version, and 2 copies of Draconic Overlord the X, the Legion version. These are the main rides of the deck. Both of these versions uses Draconic Overlord the End's ability to restand itself twice to fulfill the requirements. You want to ride the V version first since it gives you the force marker. For me personally, I go force 2. The V version makes it easier to use the End's ability since you will fill the requirements just by copying the skill by soul blasting one and putting the End into the soul. The Legion version allows you to seek the End as mate, becomes 2400 and lets you use the End's abilities. Both of these versions ideally want to attack 3 times. The V version loses drive checks per attack, so you typically do 3 to 4 drive checks depending on your opponent's Vanguard grade. The Legion version, however, doesn't lose drive check, so you would do like 6 drive checks. And then I also run 4 copies of Draconic Overlord the End. Basically, its existence is just there for X to copy skill, or it's just there for grade 3 fodder. For grade 2s, I run 4 copies of Pollen Dragon Striken. Personally, for me, this is the main card I want to ride on grade 2. It can attack on the Vanguard circle, however, when it gets rolled upon, it gives 5k and extra crit to whoever rides it. So when the X does attack 3 times, it's on crit 3. In addition, when it gets attacked and your opponent doesn't boost, it gains 5k, so your opponent will have to commit more cards from the hand if they want to damage you. Aside from that, I run 4 copies of Ignivo Dragon. This card is basically a top 7 searcher for Draconic Overlord the X. I also run 2 copies of Raven Strike the Cat. This card is a mini restrict if you activate the effect. It forces your opponent to drop 2 or more cards from their hand every time your Overlord attacks. I also run 2 copies of this. This card is just rearguard removal along with some draw power. For grade 1s, I run 4 copies of Lizard General Conroe. This card is a guaranteed Draconic Overlord X in your hand by revealing grade 3 and discarding card. This card is also your main counter charger. You can retire this card every time your Overlord attacks, you countercharge 2, so you can just keep counterblasting away. I also run 3 copies of Lava Flow Dragon. This card is your generic top 5 grade 3 searcher in case you need a grade 3 for Conroe, or if you want to add your Heal Guard in your hand. I also run 2 copies of Heat Shot Dragon. This card is a restanding booster. It restands every time your grade 3 restands, so you can keep boosting the X every time it attacks. I also run 3 copies of Twin Buckler Dragon. This card has great synergy with Draconic Overlord the X, the V version. It's basically a free PG because you don't have to discard a card if you have less than 2 cards in your hand, and the V counts your hand as 0. I also run 1 copy of the Order PG. This card is to out basically almost everything. For grade 0s, I run Lizard Soldier Conroe as my starter. This card is a grade 1 toolboxing card to add common piece in your hand. You can add Lizard General Conroe if you need Draconic Overlord X in your hand, or you can add Heat Shot Dragon for your grade 3 turn. For my triggers, I want to maximize my crits, so I just run 11 crits. And then of course I run 1 OT, and then 4 Heal Guardians. For G-Zones, I don't use much strides, it's just there for utility, because personally for me, I'd rather attack them 3 times with grade 2. For strides, I have 1 copy of the Progenitor Dragon for the cost of stride. I run 1 copy of the Xerath Dragon. I also run 2 copies of the Purge if I'm on GB3 and I want to drop check 5 times. I run 2 copies of him. This card restands if my opponent uses Sentinels or G-Guardians when it attacks. I run 2 copies of Zambust Dragon to blow up my opponent's board. I run 2 copies of Barakat. This card's there if my opponent doesn't commit and I can't restand that much. And then for G-Guardians, I use it quite often. I run 3 copies of the Now Griffin, probably one of the best G-Guardians. It retires the attacking unit. I run 2 copies of Salima. This card is a perfect guard. And then I run 1 copy of him, which is a big shield. Closing thoughts, basically it's a V premium deck. It's very Vanguard focused. You hardly stride since you want to attack 3 times with the X. It's pretty hard to deny them of the 3 attacks since Overlord can go off with 1 counterblast and 1 soul blast. The gameplay is very straightforward, no overwhelming restricts or insane number of multi-attacks. You want to attack them 3 times your Vanguard and put all your triggers on it and kill them from there. That's it for my Overlord deck profile. Thanks for watching.